This past week in medical school was probably one of the most emotionally and physically draining weeks of my third year yet. I was on gynecology and oncology, and it was just really tough overall, and I kind of want to share my experience and how I went through it, just for those of you who are going to be rising third years or are pre-meds and want to get a sense of what medical school is really like. What is up, my Nakama? My name is Daniel. I'm a current third year medical student, and I'm currently on my OBGYN rotation, and I just finished week 3 out of 8 of the rotation. And as I mentioned, the previous week was gynecology and oncology. So we're dealing with everything that involves uterine, endometrial, ovarian cancers, and we treat it with chemotherapy and radiation. And then we're in the operating room a lot to do hysterectomies, to do robotic procedures, to help with cancer debulking, removing the cancer, removing the uterus, and stuff like that. Overall, I would say I learned a lot during this past week, like especially in the operating room, being in procedures I've never been a part of, seeing the Da Vinci robot in use. It was really cool to be a part of. But I gotta say, the hours were super rough, like a little bit worse than internal medicine. So I would probably get up at 5 a.m. on most days, and we'd have to pre-round on all of our patients that had procedures earlier in the week. And then we'd have to be in surgery around 7 a.m. And usually it would go from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with like a 20 or 30 minute break for lunch, which we would have to quickly eat because they would get the room ready for the next patient, and we'd have to be in there ready and prepped and stuff. So we were on the go the whole time. I was on my feet the entire day. I wasn't used to standing up for such long periods of time, and I honestly got a little bit of back pain too towards the end of the week because I was just standing for so long. And not just standing, but holding retractors or just holding scissors in my hands for 2 hours when the resident told me to cut so that I would be ready to cut the sutures and stuff like that. So it was physically exhausting, something that I wasn't used to. Because at least with internal medicine, we could sit in between patients. When we were charting, we would sit down, but being in the operating room all day long was definitely tough. Overall, I kind of got used to standing up for such long periods of time, but coming from studying and just sitting down next to your computer all day long, it was definitely a tough transition. So the hours were really hard. I barely had time to do anything else during the week besides study, go to clinic all day, exercise, and then sleep. Literally no time for anything else. And that was definitely tough to balance. I know that there are better weeks in medical school, but these weeks just really get to you. And then the other hard part about the service was that, unfortunately, this was the first time that I experienced death in medical school. Gynecology and oncology is, of course, a tough service because a lot of these women are coming in with high stage and high grade cancers that, unfortunately, we can do a procedure, but it's not gonna really stop anything, especially if there's metastasis. And we did have a patient pass away on our service while I was there. It was the first time I experienced it. I saw her throughout the week, and then towards the end of the service, she unfortunately passed away. And that was really tough to deal with. And luckily I had a team that kind of processed with me, and we kind of went over what we did, and we did everything we could medically, but at some point there's just nothing more you can do than just offer comfort and support and love and care during a person's end. And it was tough to see, and I can't imagine doing this every day as a physician, seeing death like this, because it really gets to you, especially seeing the family and how they remember the loved one's life. So that was tough, for sure. And dealing with that and then having to go back home and study and do your normal activities is just really hard. And when that day happened, when the patient passed away, I really didn't do anything for the rest of the day. I just could not focus on anything else. I just tried to come home and relax and just try and get enough sleep to be emotionally and physically ready for the next day. And no one really tells you like how to process this information, and there's no amount of preparation that you can do during your preclinical years to actually prepare you for patient care and patient deaths. But it's something we're gonna have to go through and deal with during our training. And I'm really glad that I had a good team to support me, and also just to see how my team interacted with the patient and their family throughout the week. Because it was really uplifting to see how much my team cared for their patients and sort of the dialogue they had between them and the family and the patient. So that was really tough, and pretty much just those two things made this service really tough. The conditions that the patients are coming in with often are not good, and the hours are super long, and that combination just makes it so hard. And I would say some of the things that I did just to deal with the week is, one, I realized that I'm going to have other weeks during this rotation to study, so I didn't put too much pressure on myself to get all my questions done. I mean, I did all my Anki, of course, which I do every day, but if that's all I could do during the day, then that's all I did. And I would try to find any second of free time during the day, like if we were in between charting on patients or in between cases, to actually do my Anki so that I wouldn't have to worry about any studying when I got home. And then something else I did was I never missed a day of workouts this week, even though my schedule was the worst it's ever been. Even one day when I got home at like 7:15 p.m. and I was in the gym at 7:40 p.m. and only had like 45 minutes to work out before the gym closed, I still made it to the gym and still did my entire workout. Because that's just something that I'm not willing to sacrifice. And I mentioned it earlier before in my videos. And I just want to be so consistent with my workouts, because I know that exercise is just going to make me feel better, physically and mentally. And it's something that I'm not willing to sacrifice. Like if I come home and I have the option of doing 40 U-World questions, or missing my workout, or missing the U-World questions and doing my workout, I will always choose doing my workout over studying. Because at the end of the day, I think my own health and my life is more important than studying. And that's just a sacrifice that you have to make if you want to, remain physically active while in medical school, especially on a tough rotation. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I just kind of want to share my thoughts and feelings with all of you about how this rotation went. I think that OBGYN is going to be a lot more chill going forward. We actually have 2 weeks of anesthesia during this rotation, and I've heard that's a pretty chill rotation. And then the rest of my OBGYN is pretty much outpatient clinics. So next week I'm on REI, which stands for Reproductive Endocrinology and Infertility, I think. So helping people with infertility problems have babies and viable pregnancies. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you all who listen to this, and I hope that if you're a medical student or just a student in general that's struggling and having a tough week, just know that it can get better going forward, and that there's going to be some real shitty weeks, and then there's going to be better weeks where you have more free time, more time to just do your hobbies and be a human. But thanks for listening, thanks for watching. Stay strong and healthy, my nakama, and as always, Dattebayo.